A hearing is set for January the 18th, and there's no guarantee the judge, of course, is going to rule on that date, but we should have some idea at that point where they stand. Of course, one of many difficulties is for the lawyers in the audience that what they're seeking is a preliminary injunction, which means you're asking for relief prior to actually going through a trial. And the burden is pretty substantial. Even if you're ultimately right, the burden is still pretty substantial. The Palmdale case actually didn't go to trial. It was litigation over a preliminary injunction, an 8-day preliminary injunction hearing. At that point, Palmdale appealed the denial of preliminary injunction, and ultimately the case ended. But that case never went to trial. There's actually never been a case related to the California Voting Rights Act, with one exception, which isn't really relevant here, that's ever gone to trial. These issues, Mr. Shankman has never gone to trial on any of these cases. Simply, cities have said, either one, we might be in violation because, I mean, there are many cities that have areas, pockets of Hispanic or black voters that perhaps are in violation of either the federal or the state act. Norco doesn't have to be one of those. And there are other cities that have decided that because of the cost of litigation, that what they get out of it for their city is not worth the issue. There are cities which don't think that districts are all that bad. I mean, even though they didn't like it, Lake Forest considered, Lake Forest considered actually 22 potential maps before they haven't decided yet, but they will ultimately decide to go to districting. The bottom line is that we have some potential on January the 18th if the court rules in favor of the plaintiffs of at least Norco having a pretty good handle on saying we believe not only it doesn't apply here, but we believe the statute based upon that ruling is unconstitutional, and ask for a stay for any potential litigation. I expect also that Mr. Shankman will think twice about pursuing other cities until there's some resolution in the federal court. Probably more than anybody really wanted to know.
And reference that, John, on this, I mean, I read the report from Xavier Becerra, the State Attorney General, and confirmed with me that we're not going to get any help from the state legislators on this matter at all.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, they just capitulated them with that.
Yeah, but in order to challenge the constitutionality of the state statute, you're required to sue the Attorney General, which is what sues the state of California. Attorney General represents the state of California. And the brief in opposition to the constitutional challenge is from the state Attorney General, Mr. Becerra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Kevin, any comments, thoughts?
Oh, it's heartbreaking, and you know, it's funny, we've been working on 5, 10, 15, 25-year plans to maintain a patch of green and a sea of concrete, and diversification of income, trying to establish zoning laws that everybody can live with, and it's just sad that somebody like this can come and just do whatever they want in your city. For me, and no offense Tyler, but he's just a mouthpiece for the legislation. They know this is happening. They all know it's happening. And they should be ashamed of themselves. I know some cities, there's probably issues, but a city like Norco, I mean, I said it last week, we were a city that when every other school district around us had segregated schools, we did not. We hired the first Hispanic city manager in the history of the state of California. I grew up in Norco, I never noticed what color anybody was, ever. And it's just sad. Now my understanding is what we're looking at tonight though, is we're just trying to buy ourselves 90 days, correct?
Right. We provide additional data, hold public hearings, but for a 90-day period.
So basically, we're not making a decision to yay or nay this.
No, absolutely not.
But all we're doing is we're buying 90 days because the law is so I mean, you have to, the moment this letter comes, you're on a clock. And it's, the sad part is, my understanding is that the legislation really wants this to happen. And in fact, the times they've tried to change it, they actually made it even more draconian. I mean, they tried to make it, well, one of the things I guess I wouldn't have minded was every city above 100,000, they would have just said, boom, you have to go to districts. But there were a lot of really difficult things that you would have to follow. But I'm really glad that the residents have stepped up, because I'm really going to be looking at residents to guide me in this particular decision, because this is the only thing Sacramento's doing. And from within, we've got so many things that are happening that literally, historically, a city like ours literally can go down in 5 to 10 years. And you start breaking it up, and truthfully, we all know cities that's happened to. And so I will vote to go forward with the 90 days tonight, but again, I want to hear from more residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Kevin, it's disappointing, it's a hard spot to be in. In my situation, I saw this happen with my place of employment. And I can tell you that dividing things up and just having one representative for a body as a whole isn't necessarily beneficial. I love where I work, I'm happy with the school district, but as a whole, I don't think going to districting is necessarily a good thing. Obviously, that was a much larger area, and we did have some of the issues that are probably mentioned in the Voting Rights Act, so I understand on that side. So when I bring it down to a smaller scale, like the city of Norco, I don't see any good coming from it. And the thing that's been sticking in the back of my head is, I think if anybody can fight this and win, it's Norco. People of Norco are tough as heck and can have a lot of gumption. And so I kind of see it as that David and Goliath, and Norco is so small and mighty, and anytime we put our heads together and we work together for a cause, there isn't anything that we haven't accomplished. And how amazing would it be that he would have to change his letter, I've won all but one, and it would be yes. So I'm with Kevin, I think we need to hear from more residents. The input that I've received via email has all been, Norco needs to stand up and fight, which kind of put, some credence behind my thinking in the Norco that I know and the Norco that I've grown up in. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've lived here for 30 years, and I have fought every fight that has come along to save our lifestyle. I got involved the very first year I was here with some issues because somebody wanted to put in sidewalks and street lights, and I didn't hardly know anybody, but I fought it because I didn't move out here to have sidewalks and wanted horse trails. But I'm not ready to lay down and throw my gun away just because the one lady hit it on the head there a while ago. The guy is a bully. He's trying to bully all the cities, extorting money out of them and everything. And my theory is that, like in horse racing, there's never a horse that couldn't be beat. And I think Norco, my own way of thinking, I think Norco could actually beat this if we all unite, because like I said, there's never a horse on earth that has never been outrun, and I think it's time that somebody tried to take this guy down and save our lifestyle.
Well, I want to thank all of you for your comments and concerns and phone calls and emails. Appreciate your participation. Earlier this year, I spoke about challenges and opportunities, and this is certainly going to be a challenge, and I'll certainly work on finding the opportunity that awaits on the other side of this challenge. The one thing that does come to mind, though, is we have to protect our legacy for our children and our grandchildren. So we'll take it a step at a time. I'll go ahead and... Sure, go right ahead. Ted?
Just, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want, for the residents that are here, if you want to follow what's going on with this case, so and I should have done this earlier, the Project on Fair Representation, it's a group out of Virginia. And they are handling the Higginson case out of Poway. So it's projectonfairrepresentation.org. You can find a complaint, you can follow all that too, so if you're interested in it. And hopefully you'll keep yourself abreast of what's going on in that situation, just if you want to keep updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And once again, thanks to all of you. Go ahead and entertain a motion for adoption of Resolution 2017-68.
Motion approved.
Reluctant second.
Okay, motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Cheryl. We'll now move into item 6A. This is an appeal hearing of Site Plan 2017-10. Our planning director, Steve King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an appeal of Planning Commission's denial of Site Plan 2017-10. On October 11th, the Planning Commission considered two items together. Site Plan 2017-10 and variance related to it. And what was being proposed at the time was two accessory buildings, one consisting of a 192 square foot storage shed, and then the other consisting of a 970 square foot large RV accessory building. The variance was requesting a reduction of the setback requirements on the large RV parking structure. After consideration, the Planning Commission decided to deny the variance, which in essence meant that the garage, the RV parking garage, could not be built. They did approve Site Plan 2017-10, but with the condition that the RV parking garage be removed from the site plan. The applicant has appealed that action of the Planning Commission and is asking the City Council to approve the site plan and include the RV parking garage with redesign of the location so that it meets the parking or the setback requirements for accessory buildings that have been recently adopted by the City Council. The staff report states that the new location would place it 7 feet from the north and west property lines. It's actually 8 feet. The applicant's been advised of that, and he has agreed that he'll put it wherever he needs to. And by moving it, he then negates the need to have the variance. And so he's asking the City Council to approve the site plan with both of the buildings meeting all of the setback requirements per the accessory building regulations that have been recently adopted. In terms of its design, it meets all of the design and location criteria. The applicant is able to meet the open animal area. In terms of impacts to surrounding properties, you will not have to move a significant amount of soil, less than 60 cubic yards. He will not disrupt the existing drainage pattern. It currently goes to the street, and it will continue to do that. like I said, he can't provide the open animal area as required by the ordinance, and the way it's located on his property, because of steep slopes that he has surrounding him on all sides, so it really doesn't, it will not be visible from any side, pretty much, because of the slopes. So he's not blocking anybody's view. So with that, since this is an appeal, the city council has two options before it. You can uphold the denial by the planning commission, which means that the RV parking structure cannot be built, or you can approve the modification to the site plan that the applicant is requesting that would allow him to build the RV parking structure to meet all of the setback requirements per the Norco Municipal Code. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Does council have any questions of staff? Erwin?
Excuse me. Steve, he has two sides of him there that is open space. Nothing is there and nothing will ever be built on those. Is that right?
Correct.
And he's not going to be blocking anybody's view or anything on that.
No.
And what about if he moves the building over where he's supposed to and everything, what would he have to do to take care of the water runoff there? That would it cause the water to run off and go down on slopes and cause more erosion or what?
No, the water would drain the way it does right now, which is towards the street. It would continue to do that.
Okay, so it wouldn't erode the open space back in there then, cause any problems. Okay, thank you.
Rob? Steve? Go ahead, Ted. No, go ahead, ask your question.
Steve, the planning commission denied it because of the variance and the applicant's refusal to move the building. So that's changed now?
Well, what happened at planning commission, a statement was made by the owner that he wouldn't be able to move the building. And so at the end, when the planning commission denied the variance, the applicant's representative asked if they could approve it and just move the building so it could meet the setback requirements. And there was kind of an inconsistency in those two statements. And without being able to look at how the building could work, without looking at the site plan, they determined to deny the variance, and which in essence denied the potential of that garage building.
So based upon what you said now is the applicant has changed that and has moved it so the variance is no longer required.
Correct, and just to clarify what happened, the applicant came in and worked with staff to see if he could indeed move the building and meet the setback requirements and allow for adequate access to the open animal area, which he can, and so that's why it's before you tonight.
So he meets all the new criteria of the updated code then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that was going to be my first question. So the graduated setbacks are being met
Yes.
at this point. No need for a variance. So just a couple little cleanup things, please. When the Planning Commission had discussion of the storage shed, is there a restroom in the storage shed?
There is not.
There is not.
Okay. There's not in the garage.
Correct.
There actually is in the storage shed. I
Okay.
apologize.
Which is, yeah, I guess face reality, and I think that was discussed at planning, it'll become a pool cabana or whatever. So if you would look on page 3, then on condition 13, size of the bathroom in the storage shed shall be a minimum of 50 square feet.
Yeah, that's one of the changes that will be coming forward in from the city council's review of the status of the accessory building ordinance. The current code does say minimum, and that will be changed to be maximum, but this condition is based on the code the way it's written right now, but you can certainly change it tonight. But
If the rest of the council agrees, I'd like it to change to how we had projected that to say maximum 50 feet. I mean, the shed's only 192 or something, so.
Yeah, we've discussed that at length.
Right.
On that resolution.
And I don't think that's any impact to the applicant. And like I said, just a couple little, since it's my opportunity for some cleanup things. On the application, Steve, where it talks, it doesn't have a page number, but it's item 2 where it says lot coverage on the uniform application.
Yeah.
I just don't like seeing, if we're going to use this and ask for this information, this example lot coverage, I think it should be determined what the lot coverage is instead of seeing a note that says, see the plan and you figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay? And then on the next page, this would be like just under number 8, when you're asking for differentials between finished pads and site elevations. Just those type of general answers, less than a foot is not an answer. And then, I apologize, but I can't find it right now, but this was more on consistency of building heights, and in this case, I have no heartburn at all with the building height. But there was a determination, and I think Councilmember Bash and I had talked about this previously, was if we take it from the height of the building from the finished floor, or the state code says, I believe you have to come out 5 feet from the building, whatever that grade is, to determine the actual height of a building. Somewhere in this application or on these plans, I can't find my highlighting right now, you showed it as coming out of like 2 foot away from building. So I just want to double check that whatever, that we be consistent on however we determine the height of the building. Okay?
Okay.
So, other than that, I don't have any other questions. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I wasn't real happy, just generally, and Greg touched on most of them, I wasn't real happy with how the application itself was filled out. I think because we've had such trouble with those, and it's pretty clearly spelled out in municipal code that it has to be 100% accurate. And then I'm glad that you fixed the restroom issue. And then just to reiterate, as it stands right now, it's completely within the guidelines of the new, I met with Alma, but just to reiterate, it's completely within the guidelines of the new requirements for accessory buildings, correct?
Correct.
And then the other thing also too is just the measuring of the building. We're kind of learning how to do that. So like the mayor said, I'd like to make sure that we are consistent with it. So whatever we decide, because we actually kind of don't know how to measure one yet.
We haven't agreed on where to measure from.
Yeah, I got it. Anyway, the point is that let's just make it so it's the same, so every resident is the same. But otherwise, I don't have a problem with the project.
Cheryl, I'm going to ask, are there any cards, or would the applicant like to address the council? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. My name is Bill Atkins. I'm an architect and representative for the owner here, Mr. Denny Lee. And if I can just offer a couple of brief statements that might help clear up any confusion that you might have The project is 100% in compliance with all of the zoning ordinances for graduated setbacks, architectural articulation. The project meets all of the requirements set forth in the ordinance. The project does not impact any neighboring properties. Where cited, the project will not influence or adversely affect any drainage or runoff from the property. The project will not impact any neighboring view shed. The building has been relocated on the site plan exhibit you're reviewing to reflect that it does meet compliance with graduated setback and maintaining access to the rear yard. There will be no variance required. For clarification on the washroom in the 192-foot storage shed, the zoning ordinance specifically stipulates now that it must be a minimum, as you identified, of 50 square feet. We understand that it needs to be a maximum of 50 square feet, which is actually what we intend, and we're reconciling that with Alma. That would be reflected on the building permit application drawings as not to exceed 50 feet. As far as building height goes, the structure is less than 14 feet in height as designed. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Just one that, and Steve may want to jump in, I just thought about it. What was Planning Commission's comments about the concrete slab in the back? Were you going to remove that?
There is currently a concrete slab in the rear yard that is on the plans to be removed as part of this suburban.
Okay, good. And then you read and agreed to all the conditions
Yes,
that were presented and what we discussed tonight then?
I take no exception, Danny.
Does council have any questions for the applicant? Well, thank you so much.
Would you like to say anything?
No, I think you covered it, so, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
No cards on this
Okay.
night.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. That, I'm sure that was 5-0.
Yes, unanimous.
Thank you.
Passed.
Item 7, City Council, City Manager, Staff Communications. Kevin? Yeah, I'll come back to you at the very end. Ted? Robin? Berwin?
No, sir.
Eric, I know you have something.
I don't tonight, but thank you.
Did you want to talk just a minute about New Year's Eve? Just, oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm always happy to talk about it. So, as a result of the concerns for the animal keeping lifestyle of the Norco citizens, we have, over the last couple of years, planned for each of the holidays where we know that there are people that tend to violate the local ordinance as well as the law in terms of fireworks, and in extreme cases, gunfire. So we start planning about 1 to 2 months out, that includes a multiple prong approach where we look at education, make sure we educate the community so they're aware of the consequences if they choose to violate the ordinance or do something illegal. We give them a pathway to basically learn where there's other areas they can go, other cities where they can go to observe activities, but it does not occur in Norco. So we're looking at putting together our enforcement detail with code enforcement, animal control, fire, and the sheriff's department. And we will all be working New Year's Eve to do our best to keep the community safe. Thank you.
Will we need to get you a cutout?
Maybe.
Okay. Gina?
Yes, I have two items. I'd like to start with Mr. Warhane, who I spoke with regarding the water app. I gave him the history of the prior water portal and our current project plans and the processes that have occurred over the last year. And just to summarize, we are planning to go live in early spring. Be indicating to you exactly when that will be. I spoke to Mr. Warhane. He's interested in being part of our beta online group to test everything out. He's not really an app guy. And we're going to work with him on that. And he also spoke about Chad's contribution to look at his property. He's identified pressure issues as well. So that's that, but again, it was a couple of my decisions along the way, and it's impacted the implementation of the water app. We did send letters out to all the residences. We found not many were actually registered on it, and so everybody was notified, but it has taken longer than we anticipated. That's what we did.
Approximately how many residents were using that water portal?
Over the period of time, we identified 300 had registered. At one point in time, only 30 were intermittently using it. It wasn't, the cost benefit wasn't there.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, there's one more item,
Okay.
which Andy's tossed it to me. And, again, I'm saying with so much gratitude because of the team that we have. I experienced something this last week, going to market with our CFD. Just an excellent team. Andy's guidance, Anna, who's our financial advisor, the marketing team, really went out and marketed, told the story of Norco to the financial community. And the day prior to going to market, we experienced the lowest interest rate environment the day prior. We went in the following morning, Veterans Day, Andy and I were here, or Thursday, our Veterans Day, and saw that the market had basically, was kind of turning, and not necessarily the way we wanted it to go, but our marketing team had sold it to large, and I can't really say who, but several different large investment companies, as well as individual investors, and it went really well. They said the process is like watching paint dry, and I thought it was fascinating, watching all the bids come in, and we actually oversold by $80 million. So at the end of that process, we were able to negotiate with those who made the bids and acquired an additional $880,000 savings. So it was just to see the professionalism of everybody and working so hard for the city and the residents of the CFD. It was really a pleasure to watch.
Good job.
We're looking forward to the successor agency next few weeks. I don't know if Andy wants to add anything else.
I think we got it all. The only thing I'd like to add is that the savings that we are reported to the city council when the item came before the city council, the actual savings realized after the bonds were sold were nearly $1 million higher than what we initially thought. So the residents of CFD 2001-1, they have a lot to be thankful for.
It's all timing, isn't it? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
It was the team
Right.
to push it through that day, and that was great to see. Luck is there too.
Gina, I'm gonna put my successor agency hat on. In the future, could we get some kind of an idea on, I know the city had the successor agency, it's actually the county through the debt that was done to the RDA, just to get an idea where that is, because I know it does affect how much money we get back on our property taxes. Just a small primer on that. I don't want you to go through a lot elaborate. Just give an idea where we're at on that, since we no longer have the RDA, just an idea what the city. Yeah, something like that, so that we can tell our great-grandchildren to be paying our debt, okay, so. Doesn't have to be elaborate, just a primer on it so we can see what it is.
I can tell you 2036, so that is the year.
For the successor AG, for not what we just did, but for.
For the debt to be, and we're pretty much the end of redevelopment at that point, when we don't, I'll let
Oh, okay, so it's not as much as I thought. Okay, but if you could just get that some kind of, I think it would be good if it's something for the residents to understand too. I'd appreciate it if it's okay. Thank you.
It's important to note that it's not Norco repaying the debt, that it's the entire state of California. Yeah, just want to make sure.
Good work, Gene. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give you a quick update regarding the I-15 Express Lane project. The RCTC's project team will start grubbing, which will take place under the I-15 and Hamner Bridge area, and that'll start this next month, and that'll be the removal of vegetation. And basically that is preparation to start the project, which will include basically from Calco all the way to the 60 freeways, a $490 million project, and that will be adding express lanes both ways. I do want to make a note that we will be hosting on February 8th at Nellie Weaver Hall a community outreach meeting and open house, which will have all the consultants related to that project and allow residents to come up and talk to those consultants that evening. There'll also be another hosted meeting at Eagle Glen Golf Course, January 4th of 2018. And both those meetings will allow people who are affected in Corona, Norco, Eastvale, Rook Valley to be able to go and get information about the project, the construction timeframe. We will be presenting more information. It'll be out on our website as we work with the RCTC group related to the project. It is a big project, and we will be affected for a few years here going into it. And also, there'll be some discussion later on about the Limonite offering projects too. So as we get more information, we'll bring that to you. But I do want people to put that in their calendar for February. I'll be hosted here. If they can't make it, they can go to the January 4th meeting at Eagle Glen. But the project, at least from the environmental side of grubbing, that'll be done in River Trails Park area, which includes under the I-15 freeway, and that's vegetation removal. I do want to comment on the RCTC group. They have met with Norco Horsemen's Association as well as Southshore Riders, and have been working with them on outreaching to our community, in particular our equestrian community, related to the trails that exist in that area and the impacts, and trying to make sure our public know when the work that will be coming, and trying to work also with our community on how to work around that so that they're not impacted as much. So I look forward to those meetings and giving you additional information in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Steve? Chad? Matt? Cheryl? Andy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, first of all, I'd like to join the rest of the city council in expressing my appreciation to City Clerk, Cheryl, Matt, and Kelly for the wonderful job they did putting together planning on putting together the League of California Cities event. I think the city managers group were very impressed with what Norco has to offer, just like the rest of the attendees to that event. Secondly, I'd like to mention the fact that our own council member, Kevin Bash, was recognized as outstanding public servant. He received that award from the League of California Cities, and that is certainly something to be proud of. And he recognizes his dedicated service to Norco, not just Norco, but the entire county of Riverside and the region. And he needs to be congratulated for being accorded with that very prestigious award.
Thank you, Andy. I am going to turn the meeting over to Kevin, and we're going to adjourn this meeting in the memory of former Mayor Richard Doc Brown. Kevin?
I met Dr. Brown. I never called him Doc. My dad did. I met him in 1961. He jumped a fence. He used to own the property where the nursery is to the south of our property. And he was a veterinarian in town. He was very taciturn. He was a very serious man. He jumped the fence because my dad was trying to do something with a horse, and he said, "You Orange County people, you're going to kill all your horses." And he and my dad became best friends. And I knew him my whole life. He ended up getting elected to council in 1973. He was re-elected in 76. He was not well liked, but they knew that he loved Norco. He was a tough guy, tough. And then in 1977, in the middle of a meeting, he just kind of jumped up and said, "You're going to destroy Norco. I've had it with all of you," and he walked out of the room and resigned. His big complaint was that several unnamed council people owned all the land where the freeway went. And he felt they had a conflict, they shouldn't be voting for anything. And he was totally against the freeway. He was one of the freeway fighters, and he was truly a great man, in my opinion. I looked up to him. He was a great vet. He was a guy that was single shop, and he would get up in the middle of the night and he would go where he needed to go. And I'm really sad. And what I'd like is maybe we as a council could write his wife a letter and just state that he contributed to the city of Norco and that long line of council people that against all odds. One of the things that Norco's had is luck. I'm hoping our luck continues. But this was a very key council person that really stood for everything we value today, and he was a pioneer, so.
Thank you, Kevin. We're adjourned.